What if I told you the richest oligarch in the world used to be homeless? It sounds crazy, but it's 100% true. This guy went from living on the streets to having more money than some countries. We're counting down the top 15 richest oligarchs, and the number one spot will blow your mind. His story is so wild, you'll think it's made up, but every crazy detail is real. Vladimir Potanin. Number 15 on our list is Vladimir Potanin, aka the Nickel King. This dude's got a crazy $23.7 billion net worth, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, Potanin was just a regular guy working a boring job in foreign trade, but he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. Potanin made his fortune in metals and mining, especially nickel production. He owns this huge company called Interos and has a massive stake in Norilsk Nickel, which is the world's largest producer of refined nickel. That's where he got his nickname, the Nickel King. But here's where it gets wild. Potanin got super rich during Russia's privatization in the 90s. He used this controversial thing called the Loans for Shares program. Basically, he loaned money to the government and got crazy valuable state assets in return. It was like hitting the jackpot, but way bigger. Now Potanin's living large, like really large. He's got this insane $300 million mega yacht called Nirvana. It ain't just any yacht though. This thing has a 3D cinema and a glass elevator. Like, who needs a glass elevator on a boat? Potanin does apparently, but that's not all. Potanin also owns this luxury ski resort called Rosa Khutor in Sochi, Russia. It's worth over $2 billion. Yeah, you heard that right. $2 billion for a ski resort. That's some next-level rich people stuff. Now, you might think Potanin's just hoarding all his cash, but he's actually pledged to give away most of his wealth to charity. That's pretty cool of him, but don't worry, he's still living it up in the meantime. Potanin's got multiple mansions spread out all over the world. We're talking crazy expensive homes in the most exclusive neighborhoods, and of course, he's got private jets to fly between them all. 'Cause when you're that rich, you don't fly commercial like the rest of us peasants. Vagit Alekperov. You think Potanin's story was impressive? Wait till you hear about the guy who went from getting his hands dirty on an oil rig to running Russia's biggest independent oil company. And get this, he did it all before hitting 40. But the real kicker, his bathroom fixtures might be worth more than your house. Meet Vagit Alekperov, the oil tycoon worth a whopping $21 billion. But this dude didn't start out rich. Nah, he was just a regular oil rig worker in Azerbaijan, probably covered in grease and working long hours. But Alekperov had big dreams and even bigger ambition. He worked his way up the ladder, and I mean way up. By the time he was just 35 years old, Alekperov became the Soviet Deputy Minister of Oil and Gas. That's like being second in command of all the oil in the Soviet Union. Talk about a promotion, right? But Alekperov wasn't done yet. In 1991, he founded Lukoil, which is now Russia's biggest independent oil company. Yeah, this guy went from working on rigs to owning them. He's got a stake in Lukoil worth billions, and he didn't stop there. Alekperov's also got his fingers in banking and media. 'Cause why settle for just one industry when you can own them all? Now let's talk about how this oil tycoon spends his cash. Alekperov's got this insane $70 million super yacht called Galactica Supernova. But the craziest part, it's got a glass bottom pool. Like, you can swim and see the ocean below you at the same time. That's some next level luxury right there. But Alekperov ain't just about boats. He's also big into sports. He owns a soccer team in Russia and has dropped millions on youth sports programs. Guess he wants to make sure the next generation can kick a ball around in style. Now, you might think that's enough expensive hobbies for one billionaire, but nope. Alekperov's also got this massive car collection with over 100 rare vintage vehicles. We're talking cars that probably cost more than most people's houses. And speaking of houses, this guy lives in a $30 million mansion in Moscow. But the real flex, the bathroom fixtures are gold-plated. Yeah, this dude's toilet is probably worth more than your car. Mikhail Fridman, the self-made billionaire. From cleaning windows to owning a $100 million penthouse in New York City. Sounds impossible, right? Well, not for Mikhail Fridman. This guy turned some seriously weird side hustles into a fortune that'll blow your mind. But the craziest part? He's got a surprising habit that sets him apart from other billionaires. Fridman's sitting on a massive $15.5 billion net worth, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, this dude was just a regular college kid selling theater tickets to make some extra cash. But Fridman had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. In the late 80s, Fridman started making some real money by importing computers and Get this, cleaning windows. Yeah, you heard that right. This billionaire used to wash windows for a living. Talk about a glow-up, right? But Friedman didn't stop there. He co-founded Alpha Group, which is now one of Russia's biggest privately owned investment groups. This guy's got his fingers in all sorts of pies. He's got major stakes in Alpha Bank, X5 Retail Group, and this big telecoms company called Vion. Like, he's not just rich, he's owning half the country rich. Now, let's talk about how Friedman spends his cash. He's got this insane mansion in London called Athlone House. It's worth $65 million and has 25 bedrooms. Like, who needs 25 bedrooms? Friedman does, apparently. But that's nothing compared to his New York City penthouse. This guy dropped $100 million on an apartment in 2016. Yeah, $100 million for a place to crash when he's in the Big Apple. But here's where it gets weird. Despite all this crazy wealth, Friedman's known for living pretty modestly compared to other oligarchs. Like, he's not out there buying gold-plated toilets or anything. Maybe he's still got that window washer mentality, you know? But don't get it twisted, Friedman still knows how to flex when he wants to. This dude's got a private jet collection worth over $100 million. We're talking multiple planes here, not just one. Cause when you're a billionaire, why settle for just one private jet, right? Leonid Michelson, the gas giant. Think building an empire on natural gas is boring? Think again. This next oligarch story is anything but ordinary. From construction sites to $150 million floating mansions, he's living proof that sometimes the real treasure isn't what's in the ground. It's what you do after you dig it up. Meet Leonid Michelson, the gas giant worth a mind-blowing $24.4 billion. But this dude didn't start out rich. Nah, he was just a regular construction foreman, probably covered in dust and yelling at workers all day. But Michelson had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. He founded Novatek, which is now Russia's largest independent natural gas producer. Yeah, this guy went from building stuff to owning the stuff that powers basically everything. And he didn't stop there. Michelson's also got a massive stake in this petrochemicals company called Cyber. Cause why settle for just gas when you can own the chemicals too, right? But here's where it gets wild. Michelson got super rich during Russia's crazy privatization in the 90s. He was buying up assets left and right, like a kid in a candy store with an unlimited allowance. It was like the world's craziest shopping spree, but instead of clothes, he was buying whole companies. Now let's talk about how this gas tycoon spends his cash. Michelson's got this insane $150 million super yacht called Pacific. But it ain't just any yacht. This thing has its own helipad and beach club. Like, you can fly your helicopter to your boat and then go to the beach without ever leaving. That's some next-level rich people stuff. But Michelson ain't just about boats. He's also big into art. This guy's got a massive art collection worth hundreds of millions. We're talking paintings by Monet and Van Gogh, like the stuff you see in museums. He's got that hanging in his living room. Now you might think Michelson's just hoarding all his fancy art, but nope. He's actually invested $40 million in this cool project to bring contemporary art to remote Russian cities. So like people in the middle of nowhere can see some crazy modern art. Pretty neat, right? And if you thought that was impressive, wait till you hear about his house. Michelson lives in this $60 million mansion in Moscow. But the real flex? It's got its own indoor ice rink. Yeah, this dude can go ice skating without ever leaving his house. Talk about a cool pad, right? Alexei Mordashov, the steel magnate. All right, you think making billions from gas or nickel is wild? Wait till you hear about the guy who turned steel into a fortune that'll make your jaw drop. Meet Alexei Mordashov, the steel magnate worth a whopping $19.7 billion. But this dude didn't start out rich. Nah, he was just a regular factory economist, probably crunching numbers all day in some dusty office. But Mordashov wasn't content with just balancing books. He climbed the corporate ladder faster than you can say steel beam. By the time he was 27, he was already the finance director of a steel mill. That's like being the money boss of a whole factory before most people even figure out their career path. Now, Mordashov controls Severstal, one of Russia's biggest steel and mining companies. But he didn't stop there. This guy's got his fingers in all sorts of pies. He's invested big bucks in tourism, gold mining, and even online retail. It's like he's playing real-life Monopoly, but with actual billions. Let's talk about how this steel tycoon spends his cash. Mordashov's got this insane $500 million super yacht called Nord, but it ain't just any yacht. This thing has 2 helicopter pads and a freaking submarine. Like, who needs 1 helicopter pad when you can have 2, right? And a submarine, that's some James Bond level stuff right there. But wait, there's more. Mordashov's also got a private Airbus A319 jet worth $90 million. Cause when you're that rich, you don't fly commercial like the rest of us peasants. This dude's probably never had to deal with lost luggage or crying babies on a plane. Now, you might think Mordashov's just hoarding all his cash, but he's actually given millions to charity. He even dropped $5 million to help fight COVID-19. That's pretty cool of him, right? Like, he's not just sitting on his pile of money like some dragon. And if you thought that was impressive, wait till you hear about his house. Mordashov lives in this $50 million villa in Sardinia, Italy. But the real flex, it's got its own private beach. Yeah, this dude can go for a swim without ever having to deal with other people. Talk about living the dream. Gennady Timchenko, the Putin ally. You thought Mordashov's rise was impressive. Wait till you hear about the dude who went from fixing machines to playing puppet master in global oil markets. Gennady Timchenko's got a fortune that'll make your head spin, but it's his connections that'll really blow your mind. Timchenko's worth a crazy $19.7 billion, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, this guy was just a regular engineer at some Soviet factory, but he had big plans and even bigger ambitions. Timchenko made his fortune in oil trading, and get this, he's got close ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Talk about friends in high places, right? This dude co-founded Gunvor Group, which is one of the world's biggest commodity trading companies. Like, we're talking about a company that moves more oil than some countries produce. But Timchenko didn't stop there. He's also got major stakes in this gas company called Novatek and a petrochemicals firm named Siber. It's like he's got his fingers in every pie in Russia's energy sector. Now let's talk about how Timchenko spends his cash. This guy's got a Gulfstream G650 private jet worth $40 million. That's not just any plane, it's like the Ferrari of private jets. Timchenko probably never has to deal with cramped legroom or crying babies on flights, but that's nothing compared to his real estate game. Timchenko's got a $20 million chalet in Switzerland. Like, imagine having a $20 million vacation home. And if that wasn't enough, he's also got an $18 million mansion in Geneva. This dude's got more expensive houses than most people have pairs of shoes. You might think Timchenko's just all about business and luxury, but he's actually a big hockey fan. He's invested millions in Russian hockey. Maybe he's trying to make sure Russia keeps dominating on the ice, who knows? And if you thought that was impressive, wait till you hear about his watch collection. Timchenko's got a bunch of luxury watches worth over $1 million. We're talking about timepieces that cost more than most people's houses. Like, this guy probably checks the time on a small fortune every day. So there you have it. Gennady Timchenko went from being a regular engineer to one of the most powerful men in Russia. Now he's living a life most of us can only dream about. From private jets to multi-million-dollar homes in Switzerland, this oil tycoon definitely knows how to live large. And with his connections to Putin, who knows what he'll do next? One thing's for sure, Timchenko's story proves that in Russia, it's not just what you know, but who you know that can make you filthy rich. Alisher Usmanov, the metals and tech tycoon. If you thought going from convict to tech mogul was impossible, think again. Alisher Usmanov's story is so wild it's like a movie script, but it's all real. This dude's got a $16.6 billion fortune, but he started out in a Soviet prison. Talk about a comeback, right? Usmanov didn't waste time after getting out. He made his first big bucks in plastic bags. Yeah, you heard that right, plastic bags. But that was just the beginning. He moved into metals and mining, and that's when things really took off. Now Usmanov's got major stakes in some serious companies. He owns big chunks of Metallo Invest, this huge iron ore and steel giant. And he's also got his fingers in the telecom pie with Megaphone. But here's where it gets really crazy. Usmanov was an early investor in Facebook. Like, he saw the potential before most people even knew what social media was. But Usmanov didn't stop there. He's got stakes in Xiaomi and a bunch of other tech companies. This guy's portfolio is like a who's who of the tech world. He's probably got more valuable apps on his phone than most people have in their entire investment accounts. Now let's talk about how Usmanov spends his cash. This dude owns 2 super yachts worth a combined $550 million. One of them, called Dilbar, is the largest yacht in the world by volume. It's like a floating mansion, but way cooler. And speaking of mansions, Usmanov's got a $50 million one in London. But that's nothing compared to his $48 million villa in Germany. This guy's got more expensive real estate than some small countries. You might think Usmanov's just hoarding all his cash, but he's actually given away $4.5 billion to charity. He even dropped $100 million to fight COVID-19. That's pretty cool of him, right? But don't worry, Usmanov's still living large. He's got a private Airbus A340 jet worth $350 million. This thing is probably nicer than most people's houses. Like, imagine flying in a plane that costs more than a small island. Roman Abramovich, the Chelsea owner. Ever wonder what it takes to go from orphan to owning a Premier League team? Roman Abramovich did just that, and his journey from college dropout to $12.3 billion fortune is wilder than any soccer match. This dude started with nothing, like literally nothing. Abramovich was an orphan who didn't even finish college, but he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. During Russia's crazy privatization in the 90s, Abramovich struck gold in the oil business. He was buying up oil companies left and right, turning black gold into cold, hard cash. But Abramovich didn't stop at oil. He's got his fingers in all sorts of pies. He's got a big stake in this steel giant called Evraz, plus a bunch of investments in tech and real estate. This guy's portfolio is more diverse than a United Nations meeting. Now, let's talk about Abramovich's most famous purchase. For 19 years, he owned Chelsea Football Club. Yeah, this orphan kid ended up owning one of the biggest soccer teams in the world. He poured millions into the club, turning Chelsea into a powerhouse. But in 2022, he sold it. Probably made a pretty penny on that deal. But that's nothing compared to his yacht. Abramovich owns this insane boat called Eclipse. It's one of the world's largest yachts, worth a whopping $500 million. This thing is like a floating mansion, but way cooler. It's got everything from helipads to submarines. Yes, submarines. Because when you're that rich, why not have an underwater escape pod, right? And if you thought that was impressive, wait till you hear about his houses. Abramovich has got this crazy $200 million mansion in London, but that ain't enough for him. He's also got a $70 million estate in St. Bart's. This dude's got more expensive real estate than some small countries. Now, you might think Abramovich is just hoarding all his cash, but he's actually given over $500 million to Jewish causes and healthcare in Russia. That's pretty cool of him, right? Like, he's not just sitting on his pile of money like some dragon. But don't worry, Abramovich is still living large. He's got this insane fleet of supercars worth over $16 million. We're talking about cars that cost more than most people's houses. And get this, one of them is a Ferrari FXX. That's not just any Ferrari, it's like the ultimate rich guy toy. Victor Vekselberg, the aluminum king. You think Abramovich's yacht was crazy? Wait till you hear about the guy who dropped $100 million on some fancy eggs. Victor Vekselberg's got a collection that'll make your jaw drop. And we're not just talking about his billions. Vekselberg's worth $9.3 billion, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, this dude was just a regular lab worker at some state-run pump manufacturer, but he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. During Russia's wild privatization in the 90s, Vekselberg struck it rich in aluminum and oil. He was buying up companies left and right, turning metal and black gold into cold, hard cash. Now Vekselberg's the founder and owner of this huge conglomerate called Renova Group. This thing's got its fingers in all sorts of pies, metals, energy, tech, you name it. But that ain't what makes him famous. In 2004, Vekselberg dropped $100 million on 9 Fabergé eggs. Yeah, you heard that right. $100 million for some fancy eggs. That's some next-level rich people stuff right there. But Vekselberg ain't just about eggs. He's got this insane $25 million penthouse in New York City. Like, imagine having an apartment that costs more than most people's entire neighborhoods. And if that wasn't enough, he's also got a $20 million mansion in Connecticut. This dude's got more expensive real estate than some small countries. Now you might think Vekselberg's just hoarding all his cash, but he's actually invested millions in restoring Russian cultural sites. That's pretty cool of him, right? Like he's not just sitting on his pile of money like some dragon. But don't worry, Vekselberg's still living large. He's got this crazy private jet collection worth over $100 million. We're talking multiple planes here, including a Boeing 767. Because when you're that rich, why settle for just one private jet, right? Here's where it gets wild though. Vekselberg's got this yacht named Tango worth $90 million. But here's the kicker, it got seized by US authorities. Yeah, this billionaire's boat got taken away like it was a kid's toy. That's got a sting, even for a guy worth billions. Mikhail Prokhorov, the playboy billionaire. From selling stonewashed jeans to owning an NBA team, Mikhail Prokhorov's story is wild. This dude's got a net worth of $11.5 billion, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, Prokhorov was just hustling jeans back in the day, but he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. Prokhorov made his fortune in nickel mining and precious metals. He was buying up mines left and right, turning dirt and rocks into cold, hard cash. But that's nothing compared to his next big move. This guy went and bought the Brooklyn Nets NBA team and the Barclays Center Arena, like he owned a whole basketball team and the place they played in. That's some next-level rich people stuff right there. Now, Prokhorov ain't just about business. He's known for his crazy, lavish parties and playboy lifestyle. This dude throws bashes that make Hollywood parties look like kids' birthday celebrations. We're talking yachts, models, and enough champagne to fill a swimming pool. Speaking of crazy rich people stuff, Prokhorov owns a $35 million private island in the Seychelles. Yeah, you heard that right. A whole island. Like when this guy goes to the beach, he doesn't just rent a cabana, he owns the whole damn place. But that's nothing compared to his travel setup. Prokhorov's got a fleet of private jets, including a $100 million Gulfstream G650. This thing is probably nicer than most people's houses. Imagine flying around in a plane that costs more than some small countries' GDPs. Now, you might think Prokhorov's just hoarding all his cash, but he's actually pledged to give $17 billion to charity over his lifetime. That's more than some billionaires are even worth. Pretty cool of him, right? But don't worry, Prokhorov's still living large. He's got this insane $45 million chalet in Courchevel, France. And get this, it's got its own nightclub. Yeah, this dude can go clubbing without even leaving his house. That's some serious luxury right there. So there you have it. Mikhail Prokhorov went from selling jeans to owning NBA teams and private islands. He's living a life most of us can only dream about. From $100 million jets to mansions with nightclubs, this playboy billionaire definitely knows how to spend his cash. And hey, at least he's planning to give a big chunk of it away, right? That's more than you can say for some billionaires. Andrei Melnichenko, the king of coal and fertilizer. You think Prokhorov's yacht was wild? Wait till you hear about Andrei Melnichenko's boat. This dude's got the world's largest sailing yacht, and it's worth a mind-blowing $500 million. Yeah, you heard that right. $500 million for a boat. But that's just the start of Melnichenko's crazy rich lifestyle. Melnichenko's got a net worth of $16.8 billion, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, this guy was running a chain of currency exchange booths, but he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. He made his fortune in coal, fertilizers, and energy. Now he owns majority stakes in Eurochem, this huge fertilizer producer, and Suec, a big coal energy company. But let's get back to that insane yacht. It's called Sailing Yacht A, and it's not just big, it's like a floating mansion. But Melnichenko ain't just about boats. He's got this Boeing 737 private jet that's worth $300 million. And get this, he had it customized to look like his yacht. 'Cause when you're that rich, why not have your plane match your boat, right? Now, you might think Melnichenko's just living it up on his yacht and jet, but he's got some serious real estate too. He's got this $35 million villa in Antibes, France. Like, imagine having a vacation home that costs more than most people will make in their entire lives. And if that wasn't enough, he's also got a $24 million penthouse in New York. This dude's got more expensive houses than some small countries. But Melnichenko ain't just about spending money on himself. He's actually invested millions in environmental projects to reduce coal plant emissions. That's pretty cool of him, right? Like he's making money from coal but also trying to make it cleaner. Now, you might think that's enough expensive stuff for one billionaire, but nope. Melnichenko's got this insane car collection worth over $20 million. We're talking rare Ferraris and Porsches. This guy's garage is probably worth more than most people's entire neighborhoods. So there you have it. Andrei Melnichenko went from running currency exchange booths to owning the world's largest sailing yacht and living a life most of us can only dream about. From $500 million yachts to $300 million custom jets, this king of coal and fertilizer definitely knows how to spend his billions in style. And hey, at least he's trying to make coal cleaner, right? That's more than you can say for some billionaires. Dmitry Rybolovlev, the fertilizer billionaire. From selling medical equipment to owning a Greek island, Dmitry Rybolovlev's story is wild. This dude's got a net worth of $6.6 billion, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, Rybolovlev was just hustling medical supplies from his apartment, but he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. Rybolovlev made his fortune in potash fertilizer production. He turned dirt into gold, basically. In 2010, he sold his stake in Uralkali for a whopping $6.5 billion. That's like winning the lottery, but way bigger. But Rybolovlev ain't just about fertilizer. He owns AS Monaco Football Club and has poured millions into the team. This guy's trying to build a soccer empire in Monaco. It's like he's playing real-life Football Manager, but with actual billions. Now, let's talk about Rybolovlev's real estate game. In 2008, he bought Donald Trump's Palm Beach mansion for $95 million. Yeah, you heard that right. He dropped nearly $100 mil on a house that used to belong to a future president. That's some next-level rich people stuff right there. But that's nothing compared to his art collection. Rybolovlev's got a $300 million art collection with works by Picasso and Van Gogh. This dude's living room probably looks like a museum. Imagine having a Picasso just hanging on your wall like it's no big deal. Now, you might think Rybolovlev's life is all private islands and priceless art, but he's had some drama too. He was involved in a $4.5 billion divorce settlement, one of the most expensive ever. That's got a sting, even for a billionaire. But don't worry, Rybolovlev's still living large. He's got this insane $80 million private Greek island called Skorpios. Yeah, this dude owns an entire island. When he goes to the beach, he doesn't just rent a cabana, he owns the whole damn place. So there you have it. Dmitry Rybolovlev went from selling medical equipment to owning football clubs and Greek islands. He's living a life most of us can only dream about. From $95 million mansions to $300 million art collections, this fertilizer billionaire definitely knows how to spend his cash. And hey, at least he's investing in soccer, right? That's more than you can say for some billionaires. Vladimir Lysin, the steel tycoon. You think Melnichenko's yacht was impressive? Wait till you hear about Vladimir Lysin, the steel tycoon worth $22.1 billion. This dude started out as an electrician in a Siberian coal mine, fixing lights and wires in the freezing cold. But he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. Lysin made his fortune in steel and logistics. Now he's the chairman of NLMK Group, one of Russia's biggest steel producers. This guy's company pumps out more steel than some countries. But that ain't all. He also owns UCL Holding, this huge transportation company. Lysin's got his fingers in all sorts of pies. Now let's talk about how this steel magnate spends his cash. Lysin's got a freaking castle in Scotland called Aberrouchil Castle. It's worth $12 million. Yeah, you heard that right. This dude went from working in a coal mine to owning a castle. Talk about a glow-up. But that's nothing compared to his shooting complex in Russia. This thing's worth $200 million. It's like Disneyland for gun enthusiasts. Lysin's really into shooting sports, and he's put millions into funding training centers. He's trying to make Russia a shooting powerhouse. You might think Lysin's just about steel and guns, but he's got a soft spot for sports. He's a big supporter of all kinds of athletics, not just shooting. This guy's probably funded more athletes than some small countries' Olympic committees. Now let's talk about how Lysin gets around. He's got a fleet of private jets, because when you're worth $22 billion, you don't fly commercial. One of his planes is a Bombardier Global 6000 worth $60 million. This thing's nicer than most people's houses. It's got leather seats, a full bar, and probably gold-plated toilets or something. Alexei Kuzmichev, the tech investor. From selling computers to owning a $90 million yacht, Alexei Kuzmichev's story is wild. This dude's got a net worth of $6.3 billion, but he didn't start out rich. Nah, Kuzmichev was just hustling computers in Moscow. But he had big dreams and even bigger ambitions. Kuzmichev teamed up with Mikhail Friedman and German Khan to create Alpha Group. This thing's huge now, like a Russian business empire. They got their hands in all sorts of stuff, oil, banking, you name it. But Kuzmichev ain't just about old school business, he's big into tech too. This guy's got major investments in tech companies through Letter One Technology. He's probably got stakes in apps you use every day. It's like he's got his finger on the pulse of the future, investing in the next big thing before it blows up. Now let's talk about how this tech investor spends his cash. Kuzmichev's got this insane $57 million townhouse in New York City's Upper East Side. That's not just any neighborhood, it's where all the rich and famous live. His neighbors are probably movie stars and Wall Street big shots. But that's nothing compared to his wine collection. This dude's got vintage wines worth millions. We're talking rare bottles from the 18th century, like this guy's probably got wine older than some countries. Imagine cracking open a bottle from before the French Revolution. That's some next-level rich people stuff right there. You might think with all this crazy expensive stuff, Kuzmichev would be all over the news. But nah, he's known for keeping a low profile compared to other oligarchs. This guy's like a ninja billionaire, staying out of the spotlight while making big moves. But don't think Kuzmichev's all work and no play. He's got this insane $90 million yacht called Palladium. This thing's got a helipad and a beach club. Like, imagine having a whole club on your boat. You can party all night and then fly away in your helicopter when you're done. That's living the dream right there. So there you have it. Alexei Kuzmichev went from selling computers to owning tech empires and living a life most of us can only dream about. From $57 million townhouses to 18th century wine collections, this tech investor definitely knows how to spend his billions. And hey, at least he's keeping it low-key, right? That's more than you can say for some billionaires who love the spotlight. Yuri Milner, from sandwich seller to space pioneer. Ever heard of a billionaire who started out slinging sandwiches? Meet Yuri Milner, the dude who went from feeding college kids to searching for aliens. This guy's worth $4.4 billion now, but back in the day, he was just hustling sandwiches to make some cash. Talk about a crazy come-up. Milner didn't stop at sandwiches though. He made his first millions by betting big on tech companies. We're talking Facebook, Twitter, and Alibaba. This guy saw the future of tech before most people even knew what social media was. Now he's the founder of DST Global, one of the biggest tech investors out there. It's like he's got a crystal ball for the next big app or gadget. But here's where it gets wild. Milner's not just about making money. He's dropped $100 million on a project to search for alien life. Yeah, you heard that right. This dude's trying to find ET. It's called the Breakthrough Listen Project. While most billionaires are buying yachts, Milner's out here trying to make first contact. Now let's talk about Milner's crib. This guy's got a $100 million mansion in Silicon Valley. They call it the Palo Alto Palazzo. It's probably got more rooms than a hotel and fancier tech than NASA. Imagine having a house worth more than some countries' GDPs. But Milner ain't just about space aliens and fancy houses. He's got his fingers in all sorts of futuristic pies. We're talking companies working on space exploration and ways to make people live longer. It's like this guy's trying to turn sci-fi into reality. You might think with all this crazy stuff, Milner's just hoarding his cash. But nah, he's actually given away millions to fund scientific research. He even dropped a bunch of money to help fight COVID-19. So he's not just looking for aliens, he's also trying to save the humans here on Earth. From selling sandwiches to searching for aliens, Milner's story is the craziest rags to riches tale you've ever heard. This dude went from worrying about his next meal to wondering if there's life on other planets. It's like he's living in a whole different universe now. Milner's proof that with some smarts and a lot of luck, you can go from campus food vendor to space pioneer. Now that's what I call shooting for the stars.